morning to you both. Dr. Witchel, let me start with you, if I may. What were your thoughts when you first heard about this incident?
This is quite surprising. Obviously, it's an extreme, it's quite disappointing for the families. It's quite tragic, but it's also quite surprising from a drug safety perspective. It's extremely unusual for anything at this level to occur, that is, with so many immediate problems with all the volunteers. Normally there would be one, possibly two problems that might occur. This might include individuals who either failed to disclose things or particular unusual circumstances in one person's physiology. The implication here is that the drug itself could have a generalized effect that's in humans that was not picked up in the original drug safety trials. This is quite unusual and very unfortunate.
Okay, very unfortunate, but Professor Sikora, what are your fears about how it might affect other drug trials that are already underway for things like cancer drugs, which are your speciality?
I think it's a defining moment, rather like 9/11 was for security and transport. It's very surprising, unprecedented on this scale. There are 1,500 compounds in the laboratories of the pharmaceutical industry ready for clinical trial for cancer, and it may well be that some of these would save many, many lives in the future. It's vital we find out what went wrong here. Is it a contaminant? I suspect not, because that would have been announced by now. Is it a massive T-cell response? I suspect that may be the problem here.
Right, can you explain T-cell response, please?
The immune system is made up of B cells and T cells. T cells like to destroy other cells, including bad things, things that invade us, and cancer cells. So a drug that stimulates the T cell system could be very good for cancer patients. Here we seem to have seen superstimulation, really a blast, and that results in the edema, the elephant man analogy.
Harry Witchel, this was a biotech drug, so to speak, involving a human protein. What are the implications for the future of that part of research?
There have been talks from the media, rather, that this was, because it was a humanized monoclonal antibody, that there may be special limitations that are associated with this particular kind of drug. However, there are a wide variety of such drugs already on the market. I believe it's something like 18 or 19 monoclonal antibodies are currently out there. The market, as I understand, is worth something like $10 billion US. So these drugs have been very successful up until this point. I don't think there's anything particularly special about the paradigm of using these drugs that would prevent them from being used.
Professor Sikora, if the result of what we've seen at Northwick Park is that we become much more careful, much more intrusive in the way that that these kinds of drugs trials are regulated, is that not a good thing now that we've seen how things can go wrong?
The difficulty, I guess, is that this is so unprecedented, that all the tests would have been done, that the European regulator and the British regulator are amongst the best in the world in terms of going through the fine details. And it's much more regulated to be in a study than to be on a ward in the NHS, I can assure you. And so all that could be done has been done, and the worrying thing is it's got through. I think people are looking for someone to blame, and that's the difficulty. Who is it? The police are said to be involved. I suspect that's not the way forward. We've got to really find out what the problem is and obviously do the best for the young men involved.
Okay. Professor Sikora, Dr. Witchel, thank you both very much.